My maid of honor was halfway through her wedding speech when my husband took the microphone away from her. During the reception, in front of 112 guests, Claire had just told everyone that some women marry a man because they love him, and other women marry because they are terrified of being alone. She looked directly at me when she said it. The room went completely silent. Then my husband, Ethan, stood up. He walked toward her, took the microphone, and said, "Since we're sharing private feelings tonight, I think everyone should hear yours."
What did he mean?
He connected his phone to the reception speakers. Claire's voice filled the entire ballroom. And the first thing everyone heard was her saying, "Ethan, you know you're marrying the wrong woman."
That was your maid of honor?
My maid of honor. My best friend for 16 years. And until that recording started playing, I still believed she had spent the entire day trying to protect me. The beginning of the friendship. Claire and I met when we were 13. My family had moved to a new town halfway through the school year. I didn't know anyone. And I spent my first week eating lunch alone. Claire sat beside me one afternoon without asking. She looked at my lunch, looked at hers, and said, "Your sandwich looks better. Do you want to trade?" That was how our friendship began. Claire was fearless in the ways I wasn't. She spoke first. She introduced herself to strangers. She could walk into a crowded room and make it feel like everyone had been waiting for her. I was quieter. I observed people before trusting them. Claire used to say that we balanced each other.
Were your families close too?
Eventually. She attended every birthday, every graduation, and almost every family holiday. My mother called her her bonus daughter. When Claire's parents divorced during our final year of high school, she stayed at our house for almost a month. We chose colleges in the same city. We shared an apartment after graduation. For years, there was no major decision in my life that I made without speaking to Claire first.
So she was more like a sister.
That's exactly how I described her.
And that is why I ignored so many signs. When someone has been part of your life for that long, you don't immediately interpret strange behavior as betrayal. You call it stress. You call it concern. You tell yourself they know you too well to intentionally hurt you. I met Ethan when I was 29. We were both attending a friend's birthday dinner. He arrived late and took the only empty seat, which happened to be beside me. He apologized for interrupting, then spent 20 minutes trying to open a sparkling water bottle that everyone else had already realized wasn't a twist-off cap.
Very smooth.
Not remotely. But he laughed at himself, and I liked that. We talked for most of the evening. He worked as an architectural designer. I worked in project management for a healthcare company. He was thoughtful, calm, and a terrible dancer. I gave him my number. Our first date lasted 5 hours. When I told Claire about him, she demanded to see a photograph. She studied his picture for a few seconds and said, "Mary, where have you been hiding him?" At first, she seemed genuinely excited. She helped me choose outfits for dates. She asked for updates. When Ethan and I became serious, I introduced them. They got along immediately.
Was that uncomfortable?
Not then. Claire was charming with everyone. Ethan was friendly but reserved. He didn't flirt with her or behave differently around her. The three of us sometimes went to dinner together. Claire joked that if Ethan ever hurt me, she would destroy his life. I thought that was real.
Claire was becoming interested in him long before she admitted it to herself. About a year into my relationship with Ethan, Claire began making small comments. Nothing dramatic. She would
About a year into my relationship with Ethan, Claire began making small comments. Nothing dramatic enough to confront. She would say, Ethan is attractive, but he doesn't seem like your usual type. Or, he's very ambitious. Do you think he'll eventually want someone more spontaneous?
She was planting doubt.
very carefully. If I challenged her, she claimed she was protecting me. One evening, Ethan canceled dinner because a client meeting ran late. Claire said, "A man who really wants to see you finds the time." I reminded her that he had sent me the client presentation he was working on. She laughed and said, "You always believe the best in people." It sounded like a compliment, but the way she said it made me feel naive. Then she started making similar comments to Ethan. I didn't know that until much later. She told him I had always struggled with commitment. She said I became bored easily. She mentioned an old boyfriend I had ended things with in college, but she changed the story to make it sound as though I had cheated.
Did Ethan believe her?
Not exactly. But Claire was my closest friend. When someone that close to your partner repeatedly offers warnings, you notice. Ethan asked me one evening whether I was happy. I said yes. He asked whether I had doubts about living together. I didn't understand where the question came from. He told me Claire had suggested I felt pressured. When I confronted her, she looked horrified. She said Ethan had misunderstood a joke. Then she started crying. She accused me of believing a man I had known for 1 year over a woman I had known for half my life. I ended up apologizing to her.
You apologized?
That became the pattern. Claire would cross a boundary. I would confront her. She would turn the confrontation into evidence that I didn't value our friendship. And I would comfort the person who had upset me. The engagement. Ethan proposed 2 years after we met. He took me back to the restaurant where we first met and placed the ring inside the sparkling water bottle.
He finally learned how to open it?
He had the restaurant cut the bottom off and reseal it. He was taking no chances. I said yes. The first person I called was Claire. She screamed so loudly I had to move the phone away from my ear. She arrived at my apartment less than an hour into reaching me. She hugged me, admired the ring, and immediately said she would be my maid of honor. I hadn't officially asked yet, but I had always assumed she would be. For the first few weeks, everything felt perfect. Claire created planning documents. She contacted venues. She sent me dress ideas at 2 a.m. Then the planning gradually stopped feeling like help. It began feeling like control.
What did she try to control?
Everything. She rejected venues without asking me. She told the florist that I hated roses, even though roses were my first choice. She selected bridesmaid dresses in a color I had specifically said I didn't want. When I corrected something, she said I was becoming a difficult bride. At one point, she told Ethan that I had become emotionally unstable because of the wedding pressure. He asked whether we should postpone. That frightened me. Not because I wanted to rush him, but because I had never told Claire I felt unstable. I asked her why she had said that. She claimed she was worried because I wasn't sleeping well. I said most people don't sleep well while organizing a large wedding and working full-time. She answered, "I'm the only person willing to tell you when you're not okay." That sentence stayed with me. It sounded caring, but it also gave her permission to define my emotions for me. The bachelorette weekend. The first major incident happened during my bachelorette weekend. Claire booked a cabin 2 hours outside the city. There were 8 of us. The first evening was fun. The second night, Claire encouraged everyone to play a game where we answered personal questions. One question was, "What is the biggest secret you have kept from your partner?" I said I couldn't think of anything meaningful. Claire laughed. She said, "Mary, what about Chicago?"
What happened in Chicago?
Nothing. I had attended a work conference there 6 months earlier. One evening, several coworkers and I went to a hotel bar after dinner. A male colleague named Lucas joined us. Claire had seen a photograph on social media where Lucas was standing beside me. That was it. But in front of all the bridesmaids, Claire said, "You didn't tell Ethan how close you and Lucas became?" I genuinely thought she was joking.
I said Lucas was married and that his wife had been at the conference. Claire replied, "That isn't what you told me." The room became uncomfortable. I asked her what she believed I had told her. She said, "I'm not exposing your private life. Forget I mentioned it."
That makes it sound worse.
Exactly. I followed her into the kitchen. I asked why she was implying I had cheated. She said I was overreacting. Then she said, "If there is nothing to hide, why are you so defensive?" I called Ethan that night and explained everything. He believed me, but he sounded tired. He asked why Claire kept suggesting there were secrets between us. I had no answer. The photograph. A week later, Ethan received a photograph from an anonymous social media account. It showed Lucas and me outside the hotel in Chicago. The photograph had been cropped. In the cropped version, Lucas and I appeared to be alone. The original photograph showed 8 coworkers and Lucas's wife standing around us.
Someone deliberately cropped it?
Yes. The message beneath it said, "Ask your fiancé what she did after this picture was taken." Ethan showed it to me immediately. I found the original photograph and showed him the full group. He believed me. Then he asked whether Claire had access to the photograph. She did. She followed several of my coworkers online. I told Ethan that Claire would never send an anonymous message like that. Even after everything, I defended her.
Why?
Because accepting that Claire was behind it meant rewriting 16 years of my life. It was easier to believe a stranger was attacking my relationship than to believe my best friend was doing it. Ethan was less certain. He began saving every strange message. He didn't tell Claire he suspected her. Instead, he watched.
Around that time, Claire began messaging Ethan privately. At first, the messages appeared innocent. Questions about the rehearsal dinner. Gift suggestions for me. Wedding logistics. Then she started discussing our relationship. She told him I was frightened of marriage. She said I had privately admitted that I wasn't sure he was the right person. None of that was true. Ethan would respond by asking exactly when I had said those things. Claire never gave a clear answer. She would say, "Mary tells me everything." Or, "I promised I wouldn't repeat the details." Then she would add,
Please don't confront her. She'll know I told you.
She wanted him to doubt you, but prevented him from verifying anything.
That was the strategy. She created a secret problem and then made secrecy part of the solution. Fortunately, Ethan started showing me the messages. We agreed not to confront her immediately because we wanted to understand what she was doing. That decision made me feel horrible. It felt like spying on someone I loved. But each week, her messages became more personal. She told Ethan that he deserved someone who appreciated his loyalty. She said she understood what it felt like to love someone who could not fully choose you. Then she sent him a message at 1 a.m. Sometimes the right person is already standing beside you, but you're too focused on the wrong one to notice. That was not subtle. Ethan didn't respond. The following morning, Claire deleted the message, but he had taken a screenshot. The confrontation. I invited Claire to my apartment. I wanted to confront her privately. I showed her the screenshot. At first, she said the message was about her own relationship problems. I asked why she had sent it to my fiancé. She accused Ethan of interpreting innocent kindness as flirting. Then she said something that shocked me. She said, "I knew this would happen. He's trying to isolate you from me." I reminded her that she had sent the message. She said he had encouraged her emotional openness. There was no evidence of that because it hadn't happened. When I told her I wanted her to step down as maid of honor, she collapsed onto my sofa and started sobbing. She said I was abandoning her after everything she had done for me. She brought up her parents' divorce, the month she lived with my family, every difficult moment we had survived together. She said, "You promised I would always be part of your life." I told her being part of my life did not mean undermining my marriage. Then she said she had only contacted Ethan because she believed I was making a mistake. Did she explain why?
She said Ethan was controlling. Her evidence was that he showed me her private messages. She said a healthy man would have kept them confidential. That was when I realized Claire believed she was entitled to have secrets with my fiancé. I told her she was no longer my maid of honor. She left my apartment without speaking. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. The family campaign. Claire called my mother. She said Ethan had forced me to remove her from the wedding. She told the bridesmaids I was experiencing an emotional breakdown. She contacted my younger sister, Anna, and claimed Ethan had been flirting with her for months. Within 2 days, people were calling to ask whether the wedding was still happening. My mother asked whether I was safe. Anna asked to see Ethan's messages because Claire claimed he had deleted evidence.
She created multiple versions of the story.
Different lies for different people. To my mother, Ethan was controlling. To my sister, he was unfaithful. To the bridesmaids, I was unstable. To Ethan, I was secretly afraid to marry him. Every version had the same goal: separate us. The difference was that Ethan and I were finally comparing everything. We showed my mother the messages. We showed Anna the screenshots. Most people believed us. But Claire had spent 16 years becoming part of my family. Some relatives said there had to be truth on both sides. That phrase made me furious. There were not two sides. There was evidence, and there were lies.
The apology. 3 weeks before the wedding, Claire asked to meet me. She chose the cafe where we used to study in college. She looked exhausted. She apologized. Not perfectly, but enough to reach the part of me that still missed her.
She said she had become emotionally attached to Ethan because he represented the stable relationship she had always wanted. She admitted that she had confused admiration with love. She said she had been jealous.
Did she admit to sending the photograph?
She said she had mentioned the Chicago photograph to someone, but she denied creating the anonymous account. She admitted contacting my family because she was angry. She promised it would stop. Then she gave me a handwritten letter. In it, she described our friendship as the most important relationship of her life. She said she didn't expect to be restored as maid of honor. She only wanted to attend the wedding quietly and support me. Ethan didn't trust her. Neither did Anna. But I wanted closure. I told Claire she could attend as a guest.
Did you regret that decision?
Before the night ended, Claire hugged me and said, "I promise I won't interfere again." 2 hours later, she called Ethan. He didn't answer, so she left a voicemail. The voicemail lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Claire sounded as though she had been drinking. She said, "Ethan, I know you're marrying the wrong one." Then she told him I would never understand him the way she did. She said I had spent my entire life depending on her and would eventually make him responsible for my emotions. She said the wedding could still be stopped. Then she said, "If you call it off, you won't be alone. I'll be there. I've been here the entire time."
So she directly confessed.
She did more than that. She admitted sending the cropped Chicago photograph. She said, "I only sent the picture because you needed to see how easily Mary hides things." Then she laughed. She said she knew nothing had happened between Lucas and me, but she believed Ethan needed a reason to question me. Near the end, she said, "You and I are more alike. Mary is just standing between us because she met you first." Ethan forwarded the voicemail to me the next morning. I listened to it 3 times. I didn't cry immediately. I sat at my kitchen table staring at nothing. The worst part wasn't discovering that Claire wanted Ethan. The worst part was hearing how she spoke about me when she believed I would never hear it. She didn't sound conflicted. She didn't sound guilty. She sounded entitled.
Did you cancel her invitation?
I sent her one message. "You are no longer invited to the wedding. Do not contact me, Ethan, or my family again." She didn't respond. For 2 weeks, we heard nothing. Then the wedding day arrived. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon. At 11 that morning, the venue coordinator called me. She said a woman claiming to be my maid of honor had arrived with clothing and personal items. It was Claire. She told the coordinator there had been a misunderstanding and that I had restored her role.
She actually came prepared as maid of honor?
She brought an ivory dress. Not wide enough to be called a wedding dress, but close enough that nobody would mistake the intention. The coordinator refused to give her access to the bridal suite and called security. Before security arrived, Claire left. I thought she had gone home. Instead, she called my mother. She cried and said she only wanted to return a gift. My mother, still hoping everyone could reconcile, told her she could attend the reception if she behaved respectfully.
Without asking you?
My mother believed she was preventing drama. He didn't understand that inviting the source of the drama doesn't create peace. Claire entered after the ceremony,
while Ethan and I were taking photographs. By the time I noticed her, Dano had started. He was sitting at a table near the back. He was wearing the ivory dress. I walked toward my mother and asked why Claire was there. My mother whispered, "Please, don't create a scene on your wedding day." That sentence almost made me laugh. Claire had violated every boundary I had given her. But I would be creating the scene if I reacted. Ethan wanted security to remove her immediately. I agreed. Before security reached the table, Claire stood up and walked toward the microphone. He tapped the microphone. The room quieted because everyone assumed she was still part of the wedding party. Claire introduced herself as my oldest friend. She began with childhood stories. For the first minute, she sounded warm and nostalgic. She talked about trading sandwiches in school. She described our first apartment. She said she had spent 16 years protecting me. Then her tone changed.
She said, "Sometimes protecting someone means telling the truth they refuse to hear." Ethan stood up. I grabbed his hand and told him to wait. Part of me needed to understand what she planned to say. Claire told the room that marriage should be based on honesty. She said people should not make lifelong commitments because they were afraid of being alone. Then she looked at Ethan. She said, "Some women marry because they love a man. Other women marry because they need someone to carry them." My father stood up and told her to stop. Claire ignored him. She looked directly at me and said, "I hope one day you learn that love is not possession."
She was saying that to you?
After spending months trying to take my fiancé. That was when Ethan walked toward her. He took the microphone from her hand. Claire smiled at him. She genuinely believed he was about to defend her. Ethan said, "Since Claire wants tonight to be about honesty, we should hear the entire truth." He handed his phone to the DJ. Then, he told every guest that Claire had sent anonymous accusations, lied about me, and repeatedly asked him to cancel the wedding. Claire's smile disappeared. She said, "Ethan, don't." He pressed play. Her voice filled the room. "You know you're marrying the wrong woman." Nobody moved. Claire lunged toward the DJ table. Anna stepped between her and the equipment. The recording continued. Everyone heard Claire say I would never understand Ethan. They heard her promise she would be waiting if he left me. Then came the sentence about the Chicago photograph. "I only sent the picture because you needed to see how easily Mary hides things." My mother covered her mouth.
My father stared at Claire as if he no longer recognized her. Claire shouted that the voicemail had been edited. Ethan stopped the recording. He held up his phone and told her the original file, date, and full message were available. Then he asked security to remove her. Claire looked at me. She didn't apologize. She said, "You always take everything from me."
What did she believe you had taken?
I asked her that. She said my family had chosen me. Our friends had chosen me. And Ethan had chosen me. I said, "They are my family. They are allowed to choose me at my wedding." Claire started crying.
She said I had never understood what it was like to stand beside someone who received everything she wanted. That sentence revealed something much older than Ethan. Claire had been comparing our lives for years. The relationship she wanted, the family she wanted, the stability she wanted. She did not suddenly betray me because she fell in love with Ethan. She had gradually convinced herself that anything good in my life was something taken away from her. Security escorted her outside.
For several minutes, the reception was silent. I wanted to disappear. Ethan asked whether I wanted to end the celebration. I looked around the room. Everyone I loved was there. Claire had already taken months of peace from us. I wasn't giving her the wedding too. I asked the DJ to play the song we had selected for our first dance. Ethan and I walked onto the dance floor. My hands were shaking. He held me and said, "You don't need to pretend you're okay." I told him I wasn't pretending. I wasn't okay. But I was still married. I was still surrounded by people who loved me. And Claire was no longer controlling the room. Other couples joined the dance floor. Dinner continued. The celebration wasn't perfect. It was real. And by the end of the evening, I remembered more laughter than silence. Claire sent me 27 messages overnight. Some were apologies, some blamed alcohol, some blamed Ethan. Several blamed me. She said playing the voicemail publicly was cruel. She said I had humiliated her in front of people who had known her since childhood. She publicly attacked you first.
According to Claire, her speech was an emotional mistake. The recording was calculated revenge. She never acknowledged that the recording was her own voice. My mother wanted me to reply. She thought Claire needed professional help. I agreed that she needed help, but I was no longer volunteering to become part of that treatment. I blocked her. Ethan blocked her. My immediate family blocked her. A few mutual friends remained in contact with her. That was their choice. But I made one boundary clear. Nobody would carry messages between us. 2 months after the wedding, Anna called me. She had received a message from the anonymous account that sent the Chicago photograph. The person claimed to have new proof that Ethan had cheated. Anna didn't open the attachment. She sent the account information to me. Ethan and I gave everything to an attorney. A formal letter was sent demanding that Claire stop contacting us, impersonating others, or distributing false accusations. After that, the messages ended. We later learned that Claire had created 3 anonymous accounts. She had been sending information to Ethan, my family, and even a few wedding guests. She continued after being exposed?
She could not accept that the story had ended without her winning. The legal letter made the consequences real. We never needed to take the matter further. She disappeared from our lives.
Ethan and I celebrated our first anniversary at the same restaurant where we met. He brought another sparkling water bottle. This time, there was no ring inside. There was a small folded note. It said, "I would choose you again with fewer wedding speeches."
That seems reasonable.
Very reasonable. We discussed the wedding that night. For months, I had treated Claire's betrayal as the main event. But Ethan reminded me that the recording lasted 4 minutes. The wedding lasted an entire day. Our marriage had already lasted a year. Claire's actions were dramatic, but they did not deserve to become the largest part of our story.
realization helped me. I had lost a 16-year friendship. There is no satisfying way to describe that. Even when someone betrays you, you still grieve the person you believed they were. I missed the 13-year-old girl who traded sandwiches with me. I missed college nights, birthdays, and inside jokes. But I eventually understood that missing old memories did not require me to reopen the door.
Do you think Claire ever genuinely cared about you?
Yes, I think she loved me. But somewhere along the way, love became comparison. Comparison became resentment. And resentment gave her permission to punish me for having something she wanted. People sometimes believe betrayal proves that every good moment was fake. I don't think that's always true. Some relationships begin honestly and become unhealthy. The past can be real even when the ending is terrible.
Would you have done anything differently?
Mary, I would have trusted patterns sooner. I kept evaluating each incident separately. One strange comment, one misleading photograph, one private message, one call to my mother. Individually, each incident had an explanation. Together, they told the truth. When someone repeatedly creates confusion around your relationship, pay attention to who benefits from that confusion. When someone hurts you and then makes your reaction the real problem, pay attention. And when protecting a friendship requires you to distrust your own experience, the friendship is already costing too much.
What would you say to someone whose friend is interfering in their relationship?
Don't ask only whether the friend likes your partner. Ask whether the friend respects your boundaries. A loyal friend can dislike your relationship and still speak honestly without manipulation. They don't create anonymous accounts. They don't invent affairs. They don't tell each person a different story. Concern seeks clarity. Control creates confusion.
What would you have done after receiving Claire's voicemail? Would you have confronted her privately, removed her immediately, or played the recording exactly as Ethan did?
Tell us in the comments. And subscribe to Club Stowe for more stories about betrayal, hidden motives, relationships, and the moment the truth is finally exposed.
Because the most dangerous betrayal doesn't always come from an enemy.
Sometimes it comes from the person standing closest to you.